Hello from BC and welcome back to In My Shed. Today we have a quick overview of a Clarkson Mark II tool and cutter grinder. Quite a versatile machine, as I'll show you, but also very limited in its capacity due to the small table and the small work envelope possible. It's quite an interesting design, one I haven't seen used elsewhere a lot. The whole table mechanism can swivel. Gives you quite a range of work, and on top of that the top table swivels to the main table, so it's got more axes in the tables than I've seen elsewhere. One problem I do find is that the axes of the axes, or the centre of the axes, are all pivoted in on the wheel, and when you do a large length tool like a long series annular cutter, you just can't get the swing of the workhead in to the envelope to make it work. However, for a lot of the other work it is really fantastic and easy to use. You've got rise and fall on the workhead, and the Mark II is graduated. You have table cross feed, and that's graduated, and also two axes on the workhead. This is the standard workhead set up for end mills and slot drills, and Clarkson for some reason used a system of straight bushes rather than collets. I don't understand that, but they were doing all the slot drills and it must work. The attachments, as you'll see on the table shortly, can be fitted either to the T-slot in the table or onto this block on the side. It gives it a lot of universality, but also you've got to think outside the square to actually get the right thing to set up. There is a clamp here for rise and fall, work clamp without a globe at the moment, but it's a small package, weighs about 280 kilogram, and it's quite effective in the shed. I have a 2 and 4 slot indexing ring on the back, and also the workhead can tilt. So that gives you several ways to apply clearance, especially on the end of the cutter. I've also used this table for 4-facet drills, which I'll show later on. So keep in mind, angle the tool, angle the work, angle the table, cross feed and longitudinal. So it gives you lots of axes in the work. I removed the previous large bushing in the workhead and replaced it with what I prefer, the 25mm sleeve. And that allows me to use an ER32 collet chuck, and in that collet chuck I can place an ER11 for very, very small work. I have an indexing head, also an indexing plate that fits on the back when it goes on. And that gives me 2 and 4 flute indexing. Get that one. As the work envelope of the grinder is quite small, I made a subplate to increase the area of the table, a couple of packer plates over the back, and you can see a few of the items that come with the grinder. A small indexing finger holder, that's a bushing for larger shafts for the workhead, behind which is a shaft extender that allows the grinding wheel to get into the workplace. A few real bushes that I have made. In the background is a large workhead, shop made, not bought, just bushed on a welded up angle frame. And don't be scared of doing something like that, because after fabricating you bore the head and bushes and everything comes true. There's a Clarkson base for a tool vise. I don't have the vise part, more's the pity. Some bushes that I have made, a cam plate that I'll show you fitted to the workhead shortly, more indexing plates, wheel arbors for roughing milling cutters and for slitting saws, a pair of centres, which I had the wrong way. They're quite good and small, and one of the centres is half ground to allow escaping from cutters. There's some more indexing plates and rods. Selection of wheels over the back. Then we come to a very unusual accessory, and I'll move the camera over for a better look. This is the Clarkson spiral flute grinding attachment. The actual rack assembly fits onto the side of the table, drives this here with a rack and pinion mechanism that turns the shaft. This is a micrometer adjustment to get the flute aligned, and also an indexing plate for the number of flutes that you have on the cutter. On the end you can see there are several more indexing plates. I haven't got my head around putting it onto the machine. It is very, very difficult, and I have no manual for it. Lost in outer space, some of these old items. But this is what they put flutes on milling cutters with many, many years ago, manually, accurately and repeatedly. Quite a good item. About the only major accessory I haven't come across is a radius grinding attachment, and I would love to get my fingers on one of those. One little innovation that I've come up with is a plate I bolt onto the back here to use as a cam plate for getting clearance for cutting slot drills and end mills, or countersinks or taps. Quite adjustable. As the bolt head comes around, it rides up on the corner, over the corner and down the other side, and that gives you clearance behind the cutter. It automatically pulls it back. It should really have a coil spring inside here, or even a rubber sleeve, but it works reasonably well. The Clarkson grinder has quite a few methods of operation with the indexing fingers such as this. The indexing finger can be placed over the top. This can be used as a tower underneath the cutter. You can also mount where the subplate is mounted. So you have very, very large number of options to use it. All angle head, position indexing, rise and fall here, extension on the shaft, swivelling assembly, swivelling table. So very, very good. As I said before, my main complaint is the small work envelope. This subplate is an idea I came up with, not just for this tool and cutter grinder, but for all machines. It's slotted and holed. You can bolt it through the T-slots on the table. It can be placed overhanging at the back, overhanging at the end, and I put odd spacing between the slots in the hope that I would not come up to a point where I couldn't get the bolts in, and the first job that I had, it didn't work. Had to come in on an angle. So very easy to make. Takes an afternoon, just a bit of 6mm plate, but it opens up the area. You can then mount your work head back here off the table, get the length you need for long cutters. Also fits on the other tool and grinders, and comes in handy on the mill sometimes. Not too bad for an afternoon's work. Okay, that's that on this grinder, and we'll see you again on the next video. Bye for now. Back again with a little bit more. I've just been informed I might be selling this shed and moving on, so I thought I'd take a few pics of what's inside before I have to go, just in case I don't get another chance. Up the top we have a couple of Lister D motors, water-cooled 2 horsepower petrols that I want to put into rail cars. Wrapped up there is a couple of Lister diesels for larger locos, and then a large universal dividing head with all the gears, attachments, chucks, the banjos for the gears, and it's never been used. In the background here, under wraps, is an Isumi 4 Morse taper radial arm drill, Italian made machine of very good quality. One of the corpses of the grinders I mentioned in my last video, a Cincinnati number 2, I got that in for a mate, but he took a surface grinder instead, but that's up to him. My Parkinson large power hacksaw, 16-inch blade, good sturdy machine. That's given me a lot of joy. Spinning round. Here we have my grinder table on casters. Saw the idea in the Pommy Model Engineer magazine. It takes all of the crud outside of your workshop. Sanders, dissanders, belt grinders, anything for profile grinding comes out here. And over the back is a little bit of welding equipment. This is a Brearley Z25 drill grinding and tap machine. Good also for step drills. Takes a bit of working, it is worn and sometimes gives erroneous efforts, but mostly it works very, very well. It's also quick. Back again, we're inside the shed, behind the little drill press. It's a Johnson Shipman 540 surface grinder. That's the corner we were in before with the tool and cutter grinder and the tool and cutter grinder from a previous week. Next video will be on that little machine with some annular cutters being ground. And here's the big girl, Big Toz tool and cutter grinder. Bought that for two reasons. It's got a huge table where you can put two assemblies up at once and leave them set up, but it also had the Royal Oak form relief grinder sitting on top. They did not know what they sold. Large number of accessories yet to be repainted and reworked, but they work quite well. And the subject of my main work, locomotive frame for a 7 1/4 inch Sweet William. I'll move the tripod, see you in the other room soon. Well, here we are, first milling machine. Quite a versatile item with the slotting attachment on the back. Does a lot of good work for me. Baby power hacksaw, little 12 inch, very convenient to have in the back of the machines. Just chops away while I'm doing other work. CMZ 450 shaper. I still like these old machines. And once again, it works while I'm doing something else. No thinking required. In the background there, Kern's Baby Model S borer, getting new worm wheel and bearings fitted to the head, but it's a slow project. Some tools and my main lathe, Mazak Mate. Quite a good machine, beefy, does a lot of good for me. And here's a backed out look of the same room so you can get a little bit of an idea of the size. It's just under 6 metres wide and both rooms together give me 13.5 long. So I've got to try and replicate that when I move. Okay, bye for now. See you in the next video.